Oh, you're in for it tonight. Oh, it's gonna be great. So good evening, my name is Jeff. I'm the program director here at the Loft, and I sincerely hope that you're fully prepared to have your mind blown out of your head. I suspect maybe some of you already did that earlier this evening. But this film will complete the project. Because tonight, the Loft Cinema is very proud to present the one, the only 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick in the glorious grandeur of 70mm film projection. And you may not realize it, but this is a very historic moment that you're involved in because this is our first public screening of a 70mm film on our new 70mm projection system. So, you're in the history books, all of you, tonight. So how many of you here have seen a film projected in 70mm? Okay, so a few of you, that's good. And how many of you have seen 2001 projected in 70mm? Okay, a few of you. Your mind's gone. Your mind's gone. Your mind's gone. So I asked that because a surprising number of people have come up to me since we started promoting this, saying that seeing 2001 in 70mm was a life-changing cinematic experience for them. So please get prepared for that. In fact, the very smart film critic Roger Ebert was famously quoted as saying, "Kubrick's masterpiece is above all a big screen experience. Seeing 2001 on a big screen in 70mm is one of a handful of obligatory experiences during a film lover's lifetime." So the other film, of course, was Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, which he happened to write. But I think you really meant the film. There's not a whole lot that one can say about 2001. As much of the fun of this movie is trying to figure out what's happening. And the great thing about this movie is, of course, that the meaning of 2001 varies from person to person, which I think is what makes this such a rewatchable classic. But suffice it to say, Stanley Kubrick's, as it was originally promoted, epic drama of adventure and exploration, or The Ultimate Trip, as it was later promoted, is really one of the increasingly rare films that was built to be seen in this kind of a context. So as movies have gotten smaller on your tablets, on your phones, on your laptops, this is a film that really needs to be seen on a big screen, as you're going to get it tonight. So this was filmed in Super Panavision 70 at the urging of the film's special effects supervisor, Douglas Trumbull. Kubrick had originally wanted to shoot this in the 3-strip Cinerama process, which is also very cool, but was very problematic. Although this film did play in some Cinerama theaters when it first came out. Still to this day, more than 50 years after its original release in 1968, this is a movie that looks and feels like no other movie that has ever been made before or since. And perhaps not surprisingly, as is the case with many films that were far ahead of the curve, critics and audiences were not exactly enamored of 2001 immediately upon release, but that's often the case when, again, a film is so far ahead of the curve. Pauline Kael, the very famous film critic, noted that this film is a drudgery. This film is a drudgery, boring beyond belief. The film critic for the New York Times referred to it as horrific, and the very respected film critic Andrew Sarris said that it's one of the grimmest film experiences I have ever had in a movie theater, an unmitigated disaster. So, I would point out that since then, of course, luckily audiences and critics sort of discovered what 2001 was really about, and it's now, of course, considered one of the greatest films ever made, sci-fi or otherwise. So they're big critics. So we are seeing this film tonight in a 70mm roadshow presentation. This is exactly how big epic films in the 1950s and 60s, which was the heyday of this kind of film, were screened. Films like 2001, Exodus, Dr. Zhivago, Lawrence of Arabia, etc. So this is how they were presented. This is how people saw them. And we here at the Loft are hoping to revive that excitement tonight. So the 50s, of course, were the time when the film industry was battling television to get people back to cinemas, using everything they could. Panavision, CinemaScope, Cinerama, 3D, Odorama, whatever it took. Odorama didn't stick, unfortunately. We're very excited to be reviving this format. In addition to the 70mm capabilities that we now have at the Loft in our projection booth, we also have reel-to-reel 35 projection capabilities, which means we are going to be showing more and more 35mm archive prints. So get set for a lot of film in 2016, which is fantastic. It's our dream. And thank you for joining us on this dream. So we are thrilled to be launching what we're calling our new 70mm showcase series with probably one of the greatest 70mm films, 2001. As you saw, we have Lawrence of Arabia coming up next month. In March, we have The Wild Bunch, and there's more to come. And I love the fact that it's this old school technology is getting people excited again about coming to see movies. You may have heard about a film called Hateful Eight. I think that's helping quite a bit. As you will see, 70mm has approximately double the visual detail of 4K digital and approximately 3 times the visual detail of 35mm film projection. So this is literally a huge film format. It's literally twice as big as 35mm. And this is really the ideal way to see a film if you have the chance. Unfortunately, there are only a handful of movie theaters in the country that can actually screen 70mm. But tonight, you are currently sitting in the only cinema in southern Arizona that can screen 70mm. So, there's a reason to love Tucson, right? And an interesting and important fact to note is that not only is the Loft Cinema the only 70mm venue in southern Arizona, the theater space that you are currently sitting in, it was specifically designed in the late 1960s, specifically to show 70mm roadshow attraction films like 2001, A Space Odyssey. So yes, it's true. This theater, back on May 29th, 1969, this theater was then known as the Showcase Luxury Cinema.